What is up, Denver? Welcome to our 10th episode of our House Hack Masterminds podcast series. My name is Ben Einspar, the host of the podcast, here with my co-host, Mr. Jeff White.
What's up, everybody?
Jeff, how you doing?
Fantastic. How about you, man?
Excellent. So I'm super pumped about this episode for multiple reasons. One is we have some awesome guests lined up with amazing stories. And two, where's Chris at, man?
Chris has seemed to have disappeared. I think he wants us to take over Envision Advisors, and this is slowly but surely our way in.
Yeah, and so Chris can continue to build Envision Advisors while we continue to interview guests.
Absolutely.
All right, and to our guests we have Kyle Grupas and now Tiffany Grupas.
That's right.
They moved to Denver in 2020 from Chicago after 10 years of renting in the city. A friend introduced them to real estate investing. After digging into bigger pockets, Rich Dad Poor Dad led them to Envision Advisors. Shortly after, they purchased their first duplex in Englewood in September 2021. And that was about a year after they moved to Denver. Kyle and Tiffany, what's up?
How you doing? Excited to be here.
Yeah, very.
Awesome. So before we dive into everything, you two just got back from Mexico, right? What was that for?
Yeah, we got married in Tulum.
Tulum?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big
right
congrats.
on the beach. Thank you.
Fun, blurry week in Mexico.
Exactly.
All inclusive?
No, certainly not.
Might have been the cheaper way to go.
Yeah.
Probably could buy House Hack number 2 sooner, but
Yeah.
Definitely brought in every vendor and yeah.
Awesome. And Jeff, so they just mentioned wedding. Aren't you getting married sometime soon? You and Suleika?
Yeah, actually, March 31st.
exciting.
Vow exchange in Mexico as well, Cancun.
Well, okay.
Oh, nice.
But all inclusive.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's the plan. We're not bringing in a bunch of vendors. That's
Lesson
very impressive.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
The lesson was learned way too far into the process.
Yeah.
So couldn't turn back.
But yeah, no, super exciting. But congrats to both
Thank
you.
you.
Yes,
Thank you.
big,
Congrats to
big
you.
congrats.
Been quite the year.
Quite the year of getting married and
Buying a house.
purchasing your first house.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That
So-
wasn't planned.
That wasn't. So now let's dive into it. Can you give the listeners, paint a picture of the location of your house hack, what it is, what makes it a house hack, and maybe why it's an excellent fit for you two now that you are a family?
Sure. So we started looking, and it was actually the first house we ever toured together. Kind of a weird coincidence. We toured a few more after that and just kept coming back to it. What made it really attractive for us was it's a duplex, 2 separate entrances. We didn't really want to share an entrance with tenants or whoever. It's really close to 2 hospitals in Englewood. So our realtor, Lauren, she pointed out immediately that the opportunity for medium-term rentals was there. So once we do move out for house hack number 2, we can still rent to nurses for 30 days or longer and have that, little extra income come from that.
It's an excellent strategy. I love that.
Yeah.
It's worked out.
That's one of your favorite strategies.
That is
Yes.
my bread and butter. Short-term rental while you're there. After you move out, transition to a medium-term rental. Traveling nurses make excellent
Yeah.
tenants, responsible, reliable
Mhm.
source of income.
Absolutely. We're excited. And, we furnished the place. So
Yeah.
what are we going to do with all that if we can't turn it into a medium term? So I love that.
Exact 100%. That's the one thing is what do you put it in storage? What are you going to do with it? I
Right.
mean, it's in my book, it's the best win-win out there.
Mm-hmm.
Even more than rent by the room, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Hey, we'll get into that later.
Hey, if you can handle roommates, that's fine. But we're getting a little bit older, so
You get to choose roommates.
Yes.
that's true.
So if I remember, we spoke yesterday briefly about you finding the property, and then you didn't dive into it too much. You ran into complications. You had lending set up. You were ready to close, and then something happened with the city. What happened there?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll back up a little bit too, because I think everyone should know it's an up-down unit, right? Kind of was a single-family home that I think at some point got converted into 2 separate units. So on the top where we're living, it's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, laundry room. I think there was an additional sunroom added in where they put the laundry room. That's now our office as well. And then below is a 1-bedroom, 1-bath, full kitchen and full laundry room as well. So a lot of space actually for somebody who's renting. And when we went ahead with the offer, we were hoping to utilize the Bank of America program. And at the time, the house was listed on like Zillow and everything. All the listings were single family home. While going through that program, about a week before closing, we were informed that the house was actually a duplex, recognized as a duplex. And so we started to freak out. We started reaching out to everyone right away. Bank of America's appraiser right away, and found out that that wasn't something that they categorized the house as. And just by our own dumb luck, Englewood sends people out into the community to check out all the homes. And our house just randomly got categorized as a duplex with the additional unit below. So, we didn't qualify and had to scramble.
Right. So during closing, essentially, the city changed the listing of our house. So had a fun call with our realtor. And I will say that, after she let me vent for a minute and kind of get it out of my system, she quickly pivoted and already had backup financing in play. She's like, I already got your information in front of someone and we're already working through it. So we switched from using a BOA program to using a traditional FHA program, and we're still able to close with like maybe a week or 2 delay. So
Wow.
Yeah. Shout out to Lauren for being an amazing
Awesome.
realtor.
incredible.
Naughty. She's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a couple things I want to dive into that story is, first, you mentioned the Bank of America program.
Mm-hmm.
What is that?
Right. So it's this amazing program that, again, we wouldn't have found out without Envision Advisors or Lauren sharing that with us. But essentially, it's a grant or a program. I'm not sure how they
Yeah, it's a
classify it,
grant.
but they give you a $10,000 towards your down payment. So less money out of pocket. And there's also no PMI, so no private mortgage insurance, even though you don't have that 20%, loan to value or whatever.
Which is huge.
So that's a huge savings initially. So when we were running the numbers on the house, it was a home run. I mean, we've seen, other properties analyzed on the podcast, and it just makes the numbers look crazy. So that was really exciting. When we switched to FHA, of course, we kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but it's still like a really solid base hit, as everyone says. Like the numbers still make really good sense, which is why we were excited to close.
Yeah.
What was your rate on the Bank of America initially back then? Which feels like a long time ago now.
Actually, it wasn't that. I don't think it was that far off. I want to say.
I think I just blocked it out.
Yeah, I know. We might have just forgot but honestly, the rate wasn't that far off. It was the PMI that made all the difference in the
Right.
world. Because I think the PMI is like around $450 a month, maybe.
$430.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Additional.
and that's an FHA, so that never drops unless you refine it. Is that
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, so FHA, it's for the life. The new FHA loans, it's for the life of the loan, unless you refi out of it to
Right.
conventional.
Yeah,
So-
real bummer.
Which the appreciation, maybe in a couple of years, you can. Hopefully, rates don't go up too much,
Mhm.
Right.
where it makes sense to get that 450 dropped off
Right.
Yeah.
into a conventional loan.
It was a tough pill to swallow because, we are trying to become real estate investors in a sense and grow our portfolio as quickly as possible. And you need cash to do that, right? So it's like, do you pay it off quicker so that, you can hopefully get rid of that PMI sooner than later? Or do you put that money towards House Hack number 2, which is obviously what we're going to do. But it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. And so if we go back to your original bio, you said renting in Chicago
Yeah.
for 10 years. What was rent?
12. Yeah.
What was rent like in Chicago?
So,
Or previous previous to House Hack?
Sure. So when we first moved to Denver, we were excited, obviously moving to a new state across the country. We wanted to make sure we were living comfortably, and we certainly were. I think our rent all in was around $4,300.
But you have to understand that living in Chicago, that wasn't getting you the most extravagant place. And we have 2 incomes. So it was kind of like you were saving money moving in together as city dwellers. You know what I mean? And you were getting a much better place. So we just kept the same amount of rent. And we're like, let's make sure we love our place in Denver because we're making this huge move. And so, yeah, I mean, before I moved in with Kyle in Chicago, I was spending $3,500 a month in rent.
By yourself?
By myself. Yeah. But I'm also kind of bougie. I could have been
coming from Nebraska. I'm sure that
I came from Nebraska, and so this was a scale up.
So when we did close on the house, just moving to the house alone, our cost of living essentially went down because the mortgage was less than $4,300, thankfully. And then you add rental income into it. I mean, we're just living the dream now.
Yeah.
And then let's dive into that. Let's go back to the reason why. Did you know when you walked the house, was there any signs that it was a duplex? Like there was 2 panels outside, 2 gas meters, something going on that, this possibly, or there was no signs. It was 1 water heater, 1 furnace.
2 mailboxes was a pretty big tip off, I think.
But it was there is one furnace and 1 water heater, isn't there?
Yeah. One. Utilities are shared, but there is 2 separate addresses and 2 separate entrances. So you can't access the top from the bottom, vice versa. So
we were looking for a duplex, though.
It was clearly a duplex.
Yeah.
The tricky thing too is sometimes, and this is for all the listeners, what you could have, just because it has 2 meters or 2 panels doesn't mean it's necessarily a duplex. Some people, you can add those.
Right.
Or if it's 1 meter or 1 gas, 1 furnace, 1 water heater doesn't mean it wasn't duplex. Like, for example, in Capitol Hill, a lot of those houses are built in the 1890s, 1900s. So they don't have, separate utilities for everything.
Right.
And they split them all up. They used to be like just big houses that they split up into like 5 units. So just because it has, or 2 mailboxes, sometimes you just add a mailbox.
That's what they did.
Yeah.
I mean, quite frankly, they even added it's 4125, but they added and a half. Which is why the city did what they did, I think. That was the tip off for the city.
Was there, if you go to the mailing record, is there actually a true mailing address if you go onto USPS.com? If you type in the address,
great question.
Haven't
then
checked.
you find out if it's a true address or they just threw in a mailbox with a half.
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I bet, I don't know. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So sometimes with these unofficial single family converted duplex, or it was duplex converted to single family, now back to duplex. Sometimes it's the cities, depending on the age of how old is the house?
Born in 49.
49.
Born
so this might
built in 49.
I was born.
Yeah.
But yeah, based on the age, a lot of those have like non-conforming approved status. So if it was built today, it wouldn't work because I bet it doesn't have necessarily all the proper up to code requirements for stairs.
Right.
Maybe the windows in that basement, if it's if it's walkout or not. But back then, obviously, the code was way different.
Definitely.
So that's just something to keep in mind with these unique properties like this. But based on, so it was the initial appraisal for the BOA, he didn't see anything that said it was a duplex. He called it a single family. Is that correct?
It was listed by the city of Englewood as a single family.
And then literally the week before.
And then once they got like the underwriters involved and all that, it got flagged because it was now listed as a duplex.
Right.
Oh my God.
And the BOA program does not allow, I mean, the grant is obviously to help people enter into the market, not real estate investors. So that's, I think that's where the duplex deads that deal for them.
What if he would have closed and then they would have switched?
Would have been ideal.
Yeah, it wouldn't have mattered at all at that
and
point.
this happened within a week of the appraiser, I think, was dragging their feet at BOA a little bit. So we were kind of on them, and it just randomly happened because I even went back to the sellers and was like, well, Lauren, we need to talk to the sellers about this now, because if they categorized it as a duplex or asked the city to do that, they need to go back and ask them to change it back. And then we found out that the sellers absolutely did not do that. It was just a fluke city thing. Yeah.
And there's no going back, Jeff. So there's
No.
nothing they could have done since it was through the city.
I was
Even with
pushing.
Yeah.
even if like you go to, like you said, the USPS and
Confirmed it was a
and
single
co-
family.
yeah,
Or if it was one address only, because now confirmed,
Yeah.
they just threw in a mail. You could anyone could add a mailbox.
Yeah, so kind of like when you go to get comps, if you want to kind of provide good comps ahead of time to your appraiser, could you do that same thing to the city, or is it just the city is the city? There's no turning back. I know
Well,
just
there's
for learning
ways.
purposes.
The ways I look when you have these unique properties like theirs is you go to the assessors. So the city of Englewood is in Arapahoe County, I believe.
Yep.
Mhm.
So you can go on there.
Mhm.
Sometimes, usually it's correct.
Mhm.
But obviously, what happened to both you is I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
This just sounds super random.
Yeah.
And they just changed it. Right? Like, is this unfortunate? 'Cause
Just the best
If you had
luck.
1 week
Yes.
before,
the timing.
it would have been fine. But it was just unfortunate. And then I guess on the assessor office today, does it show as a duplex
Mhm.
zoning?
Yeah.
I think even to Lauren's credit, she was like hunting down the assessor at Englewood trying to get him.
We were stalking them.
that does not surprise me.
No.
Yeah,
She,
no, we were-
Lauren is a bulldog.
She's
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
We
So,
love her.
but they were like, there's 2 separate entrances. Like, it's not. Like, they just wouldn't budge.
And there's probably a stove on both levels.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, what usually triggers 2 units for most cities is the stove. So people
Really?
add
Yep.
the 220 volt because it's a separate or they're supposed to trigger. Some people add stoves, but
Yeah.
usually that's the trigger for like, oh, it's a separate unit, because why would you add a full stove unless you're renting it out?
hmm
Airbnbs usually don't full stove, like a hot plate maybe,
Right.
just because it's kind of why most people on vacation don't cook.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's usually a trigger for Airbnb or sorry for separate units
Yeah.
for most cities. But what's surprising to me is it was single family up until a week before closing. They
Yeah.
said, "Oh, sorry guys,"
Right.
and then you're just out of luck. And luckily, Lauren you had a backup plan where
Right.
it worked out fine. I guess looking back, was there anything you would have done differently?
We couldn't have seen it coming no matter what. I mean,
Yeah.
just having the backup plan was crucial to have, someone who's like really aware of like, what's going on through the closing, of course. The only silver lining is that it leaves the BOA option available for House Hack 2 now.
Yeah.
So it's still something we can in play.
Mhm.
Still
We
something
made
we're gonna,
sure to like do the house under him and
yeah. So
kind
this
of-
house is under me. We're going to try and do it again. Hopefully they don't change it again, but we'll see.
Right.
So,
Oh, FYI, since you're married now, that's a change of life circumstance. So you could potentially buy again sooner than you think
okay.
if you haven't.
What do you mean? And instead,
If you have in both
if we
names.
had it in both of our names,
Correct.
Oh,
right?
right,
Okay,
right.
that's a good point.
We kept them separate. So.
Yeah, we just were so nervous about it. We didn't want to lose the opportunity to take BOA up on that grant.
Yeah.
So hopefully I still qualify because obviously, you can't make past a certain amount. The home has to be in a certain area as well to qualify for this grant. Or like a classification of their own. They have like neighborhoods A, B, and C, I think. So it can't be in an A+ neighborhood, let's say.
Right.
Yep.
Or was it opportunity zone? Was it technical
It's
opportunity?
Yeah.
low to moderate
Mhm.
income, and
Right.
if you're interested on that, there is a map that you can go. You just type in the address, and it'll give you the information about that. And I think one more requirement is you have to make under
150,
150
Yeah.
a year.
Right.
And when I first heard about this Bank of America program, I thought, oh well, I don't want to go live in a C- C+ area. But then I started typing
Definitely.
some of my previous addresses in there, and they qualified. And I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then I was like, why didn't I use this earlier? And
Right.
so,
Right.
but
It's
it's a phenomenal
surprising.
program that
Mhm.
not many people are. Well, a lot of our house hackers are using, but not
Right.
many people, if you talk to them outside of it, know about this grant program. They say I get it every time. Sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Or what's the catch? Do they have a higher
What's the
rate?
catch?
Yes.
Or
Definitely.
do they throw on like a second mortgage, or they do some kind of trick where they say, oh yeah, we'll give you 10 grand or the closing costs, and then like, oh, but you have to have a second mortgage on there. If you sell it, you have to pay us back the grant or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, when Lauren told us about it, we were first time home buyers to begin with, so we weren't aware of all like the, let's call it curveballs mortgage companies can throw you. So it wasn't more of that reaction as it was like, wow, this sounds too good to be true. And like, how did we not know about this?
Right.
But then you start finding out like there are some stipulations with how much you can make and what neighborhood you can purchase in. And to your point, surprisingly, what they consider to be a low to moderate income neighborhood is very nice. And yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that just shows the power of, I think Chris says it best. It's not if things happen, it's when things happen. And yours just happened to happen even before closing
Right.
with real estate. I mean, when you first mentioned it, it kind of reminded me of it, whenever you're proposing to a significant other about the what ifs, they always ask the what ifs. What if something happens? What if they flood it? What if we can't collect rent? Well, it reminds me of our first rentals. We were planning on having a short-term rental, and then we had it made for 9 months, and then March 2020 rolled around. And we all know what happened.
Right.
All of our bookings dropped off.
Right.
Everything left. There went our income. But
Terrifying.
it was extremely terrifying. And then I remember going back and saying, "Oh, that's never going to happen." But took a step back and realized, hey, there is still a demand for traveling nurses, and that's what got us into medium-term rentals and traveling nurses. And going back to you, so you have laundry on both levels.
Yeah.
That is excellent. That's one thing to keep in consideration, because when you're doing a short-term rental, you really don't think about laundry too often, because they're not there that long. But medium-term rental, they don't want to go to a laundromat, and traveling nurses won't want to go to a laundromat, and that's an excellent asset you have to attract for not only 1 month stays to even maybe 4 month stays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then going back to the property, you said 2-1 upstairs, 1-1 downstairs, correct? And you both are upstairs?
Yeah.
And then, so what is your current strategy you're using today, and what will be after you move out?
It's gonna be a pretty similar strategy. So we have the Airbnb now open to short-term rentals. Like, we are certainly open to a weekend stay, but we've just seen so much interest, like through the messaging or inquiries or whatever. And they're almost all these nurses reaching out for 30 days, 60 days. We have a 90-day stay in there right now. We're just really close to these two hospitals. And when we toured the property, again, going back to Lauren, she said, like, this is a great opportunity for you guys. So we're going to continue to do medium-term stays, 30 days or longer once we move out. And we'll put a long-term tenant upstairs. And then I think hopefully our property manager who does the down below will just do an upstairs for a little extra.
Yeah, we'll have to convince them of that, but I'll be able to do that.
I bet.
So we're going to do medium-term down below, long-term upstairs.
Perfect.
What platforms are you using?
They only use Airbnb. So I think, again.
Oh yeah, because you have a PM, right? I keep forgetting
Yeah.
you have a PM that's
we have
managing
a really great property manager.
Okay.
And they've done a fantastic job. They price it out very competitively, and they've done just knocked it out
They're
of the park.
thorough. They're can't say enough good things about them.
So we'll just, they're going to, we'll keep them appraised as things move along, but we'll just have them do 30-day or longer rentals, which shouldn't be a problem. We've seen interest. Like, our very first booking was a 30-day rental, and then the next one was a 90-day rental. So, there you go. And then we'll just find a long-term tenant upstairs.
You're not going to just do both of them?
Thought about it.
And just leave all your furniture?
Thought about it. So
I mean, if you're telling me I can buy new furniture for the next place, then
There you go, Kyle.
thanks, Jeff.
Worst idea ever.
anything is possible, and we'll see what the market dictates around that time. And
if the property managers want to do it and it brings us more income, then have at it, I guess.
Yeah, let's talk about the property manager. So is this a specialized property manager for short-term, medium-term rentals?
yeah,
they were referred to by our friend who actually introduced the idea of real estate investing to us. So he has a property, it's in Rhino. They do very well for him. And so he referred them to us. And so they specialize in short-term and I guess medium-term with us now.
yeah. I mean, I think they only do Airbnbs or VR. Do they list on VRBO?
I think they just do Airbnb.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
either way.
That's how hands-off we are. We don't even know.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
That's how we like it.
That's a signs of a great PM.
Mhm.
And then are they charging higher rate than you initially expected?
No, we got a great rate. So we've interviewed a couple, got like 25%, was like kind of a standard. They charge 20%. So we'll definitely take that. And the other advantage that they kind of offered was we get to keep the listings under our name and there's no contract. So they kind of say our work will prove itself, which they have. And if you ever wanted to leave for whatever reason, you get to keep the listing and reviews under our own name.
Which is huge.
That is great for future rentals, because then that transfers over. Let's talk about laundry. So Did your PM provide like the linens, the sheets, the comforter, the towels, or did you guys supply that?
So we actually did stock it with
Okay.
like an initial like one set of bedding and towels, but they have a whole warehouse of this stuff, and so because you are changing through them quickly, and
Yep.
so they actually provide all that. They provide snacks. They have their own team that comes in and cleans. So they do it all.
They helped us with some furnishing too, because we had to furnish it all. So they had like their own ideas. They shop on Facebook Marketplace for you. They have, they really are really.
They have
helpful.
someone come and shoot the place. They stage it.
Photography?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we paid for those additional services,
Yeah.
but they have,
It was worth
it's
it.
all set
So,
up. Yeah.
If you were to give, because I talk to a lot of people that are wanting to get into short-term rentals, and that's a challenge is cleaning and property management.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone that maybe doesn't want to go with a large corporate short-term rental or medium-term rental PM to find maybe how you found a smaller mom and pop PM that's more affordable than the typical 25, even 30%?
I mean, they can reach out to us and we'll certainly have that conversation
awesome.
with them. I mean, other people have obviously helped us to get to where we are, so we're willing to help others do the same. Now, I hope they don't
Bombard
overwhelm
our team.
Oh, no. I'm just joking. No, anyone's welcome to reach out. We'll certainly try and help anyone we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I will say that we put in the legwork to interview, I think, 3 teams, and some of them we had to kind of chase down to talk to. But we reached out to people and asked for referrals constantly so that we could eventually get to the team that we have now.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to put your Airbnb listing and your contact info in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So one thing I really enjoy talking about is, I know it's under you have it under a PM, but the operations as a couple of identifying what systems you have to do and who takes charge of that. Have you worked with any of that, or are you? Because I know I talked to you earlier, and I know you two make an excellent. You work together very well as a couple. Do you have any other things you do, or how do you work through that?
Well, I'd first like to start off by saying that Kyle wanted to manage this himself. Okay, Kyle
I can
also.
relate, Kyle. I can relate, and I'm sure Jeff
Yes.
can as
Yeah.
well.
I basically told him if he wanted to make it to the altar that was not going to happen. And that's just because I know how much we have going on. We both work full time. We moved to Denver and signed like a 14-month lease because we knew we weren't going to buy a house until someone introduced real estate investing, the idea to us, and then it just took off and had a mind of its own. So we broke our lease, all that good stuff. So I guess what I'm trying to say is knowing your limits is one way, but he picks up the slack where I don't, and vice versa.
I think we do a really nice job of like divide and conquer. So like a good example is through this whole process of like buying a home, doing the Airbnb, the furnishing, everything else. Like she's more in the creative, helping with the furnishing side of it. She's also planning a wedding basically this whole time. So picking out plateware and flowers and all that fun stuff. And so I would be more, the administrative side, handling paperwork, getting
He's
all that
super
financing.
organized.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just, there's no one person doing more or less. It's just like we see what we have to get done and we just knock it out.
Right. I kind of picked out a lot of the Airbnb stuff. He would then go and purchase it or make sure that like
It was assembled.
Yeah. He did all the assembly, which he was done buying furniture that had to be, if he saw a big box come, he would roll his eyes because he knew there was going to be some assembly.
Was it IKEA?
Yes.
A lot of Wayfair, actually.
IKEA and Wayfair. I mean, I'm done with Allen wrenches for a while.
Until your next property.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Right. So I think, it's just day to day dividing and conquering so that we can get done what we need to get done.
And do you think going forward, your strategy will be similar with property management?
Yeah.
Even though you have no more wedding to plan.
We travel literally every other weekend. We're gone, which is, a very nice place to be. But we're very busy. So I would say if he's trying to manage something himself, that's going to be a no for me.
I think outsourcing those kind of things allows us to have more freedom to look at house number 2, to do other things like that. Also focus on ourselves, of course, but push the stuff that other people are experts in onto them, and let me focus on what I can do best.
I 100% love that point, because now you've created a system and it's a scalable business. And because I'm sure you two have a very demanding job, and so you're able to have those systems in place, moving from house hack number 1 to eventually house hack number 2.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I quickly learned, I thought I was going to do all these home improvement projects, and quickly learned that those are better left to the professionals as well.
Yeah.
So I just push all that stuff away.
And shout out to Lauren for giving us all the referrals on electricians and everybody else that we needed.
Plumbers and everything.
Yeah.
So as we wrap things up, is there any last advice you would give to anyone out there that's wanting to follow your same footsteps or do something similar to what you're wanting or what you are currently doing?
I would say, at least from my side, like I said, real estate was not on our radar. We have good jobs, we make decent money, we've got our 401ks, our investments, whatever. And once it was introduced to us as an additional revenue stream, another way to become sort of independent and have more choices in life, it was a no-brainer. When we found you guys, it was like a whole world opened up to us. It was taking people who had no idea what they were doing and giving us the confidence to move forward. So I would highly recommend your team, because we didn't have any connections here in Denver. So for those people who helped us, with, the jobs around our house and things like that, like, you guys are an amazing resource. So highly, highly recommend checking out your team.
Yeah, I would just kind of add to that is saying, like, it's definitely a lot of work, but it's not like impossible things to do. It's just a never ending list of like tasks you have to kind of check off, which is like right in my wheelhouse. And so, but once you get the thing up and running, like our house is up and running, the Airbnb is listed, we still to this day pinch ourselves that 80% of our mortgage is being covered this month by someone who lives below us.
In slow season. I mean, that's incredible.
So it's incredible.
In February, that's very impressive for a typical slow season.
In Englewood, I mean, it's not even like Denver or a mountain town. So
just to get the snowball moving, it just builds momentum behind it really quickly.
That's a great analogy. I love that. And you mentioned having a great team and knowing your network. So anyone out there, if you're wanting to maybe build a team or expand your network, Jeff and I have a monthly meetup that's all about house hacking.
Absolutely.
Right? So please check that out. The details of that will be on our Facebook page in the show notes. So check that out as well. And along with, for Kyle and Tiffany, their contact, their social, along with their Airbnb will be in the show notes as well. So feel free to reach out to them if you're wanting to hear more about their story. But otherwise, I appreciate you guys taking your time out of the day to come chat with us. It's been a lot of fun.
It has. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Cheers.